Hi everyone, I'm Lucas, and today I'll go through a quick demonstration of elevaite365 test automation for Business Central. So what we see on the screen is just a newly created test script. The only thing I've done is that I've signed in using Microsoft credentials. So when you start a new test script, I typically recommend using the screen recorder. The screen recorder will basically allow you to record your whole process inside Business Central. And once you're happy with that, you can stop the recording and manually go through your recorded steps, do some cleanup, and maybe do some adjustments. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to click Enable Recorder. It's going to spin for a few seconds. And now it's ready to record. So we can see that because wherever I move the cursor, it's also highlighting that element in BC, which means that I'm now allowed to click Vendors and navigate my way through. There we go. Now we click New. I'll select a vendor template. And there we go. Another thing that's important when you're creating test scripts is that they are reusable. So for Business Central and many other systems, some things needs to be unique, like the vendor number, customer number, invoice numbers, things like that. Now, Business Central is quite good with this, and you can of course use the preset or pre-configured number series that you already have set up in your sandbox. However, this is possible with Elevate as well. And if you want your entries, your vendors, your invoices that Elevate has created to be clear that they have been created through Elevate, it's a good practice to actually do this via us. So I'm actually going to go ahead and replace this vendor number here suggested to something else. I'm going to call it E365 underscore vendor 1. And then I'm going to hit tab. I'm going to confirm this message. And I'll do the same thing for the name. Actually, I'm going to write that in capitals, like this. Now, once you're satisfied with your test script, you can just stop the recording. So like I mentioned before, typically you record your process, then you stop the recording and go through your recorded steps. So what I've done now is, well, basically a rerunnable test script. I can run this how many times I want. However, we're not making sure that the vendor name and vendor number is unique, and that will fail due to duplication. So what we can do in Elevate is to, instead of pasting this static value, I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out. We're going to click this button over here, which will take me to the variables table. Now in here you can create variables. I've already created one called vendor BC, and I'm going to place my vendor name in there and hit save. So this is actually the variable I want to use, and each time it will pull the value in, and that's what's going to be pasted. Now I want the same value or the same variable to be used for my vendor name. So same thing, select. But how do we make sure that this gets unique every single run? Well, we have another command called modify variable, where we can modify any of our variables. In this case, I'm just going to select the same one, so vendor BC. And we have a bunch of different functions we can use. I'm just going to leave it with increments, which means that each time we run past this step, it will increment our value by 1, meaning that the next time it will be E365 underscore vendor 2, vendor 3, and so on. So you can have this at the end of your test script. You can have it before you paste the value. It really doesn't matter. I usually prefer to have it just before, so that I see that they go hand in hand. Another thing, a test script isn't really a test script if we're not verifying anything. So another thing that we could add on to this is to go back to the list of vendors, search for the newly created one, and just verify that it exists. So let's go ahead and record that. Again, I'm enabling the recorder. It's active, so I'm going to hit the back button. I'm going to hit the search icon. And in here, I'm just going to paste E365 vendor 1 and hit enter. There we go. So again, recorded the process. I can now stop it. Again, what I would like to do here is to replace this static value with my dynamic one. I'm going to take that from my vendor BC variable and place it in here. And at the end, we would like to verify something. Maybe that the vendor actually exists in the list. So for that, I would just open up the list of commands, search for verify. And for this instance, I'm going to use the verify field command. First thing is that we need to use this field inspector or magic wand. So by pressing that, we can then select whatever field, tooltip, not tooltip, checkbox, whatever we want to select and have validated by Elevate. So I'm just gonna click on the name in this case. Now we have two verification steps. First of all, we can check if it's visible, which it is. And also we can check if it should contain or is equal to or starts with. I'm just gonna leave it to contain. Now again, I don't want to have any static values in here. I want to have the value from my variable because this will change, right? So I think, let's do some cleanup here. I think I misclicked, so let's just remove that step. And let me just quickly look through this. That looks fine. So what we can do is just to go back to the home screen and we can start the script from step 2. So let's see how it manages. You see we modified the variable with the increment function, and now it pasted 2 instead of 1, and this will increase the number, will increase every time we run the script. Just makes it easier to see that these vendors have been created by Elevate and not by someone else, another user having access in the system. So we're back in the list. We're searching for that same vendor. And at the bottom of the script, it will verify that it exists or that the name contains the variable value, which it does. So everything went fine. Perfect. We now have a ready script. This can be reused hundreds of times. Some other tips and tricks when it comes to Business Central is, let's just open up this vendor card. So as with all of the D365 applications, we do have application-specific commands. These are always available at the top of the command list. And for Business Central, we have these 4. So the first 2 are actually quite useful when we're talking about pages and the different sections that we want to have visible. Right? So if we have other users or other scripts interfering with the vendor card, clicking on these different sections that might interfere with other scripts. For instance, if we have a test script that wants to interfere or interact with this setting over here, and the tab is closed, that means that the test script will fail because it can't reach the setting. So to make sure that it always is accessible, we want to use this expand section function. So same thing here, we're using the field inspector or the magic wand. What we want to do here is just to select any of the sections that we would like to have expanded. So I just selected it, it picked up the label of it. So now I can just right click just to double check that it actually works. There we go. So next time we open this vendor card and we run through this script and it might be expanded already, that means that, well, Elevate will check that it is expanded. If it is, it will just skip and proceed to the next steps. However, if it's collapsed, then Elevate will make sure that it's indeed expanded. So two other functions here. We have toggle checkbox, we have verify checkbox. So the toggle checkbox is quite similar to the expand and collapse command, but you get, well, both of the options in the same command. For instance, I'm using the magic wand again to select this toggle or checkbox over here. And then I can just specify here if I want it to be toggled. If I untoggle this, that means that it will be untoggled, right? So if I leave it to toggle and run it, actually before I run it, I can just go ahead and add this command as well. Verify checkbox. It's just a specific verification command that we've added specifically for Business Central. Same thing there, we can just select the same one and validate that it is checked. And now from here we can actually go ahead and run both of these steps and see if it works. There we go, it's checked. Now it's gonna validate that it actually is. All right, perfect. So other general tips when it comes to BC, the Factbox panel, if you're not using it for the script, I would actually go ahead and click on this icon just to collapse it. That will just expand the window and make sure you have more screen, you can see more fields. Another one that I usually recommend clicking on is just to open this up in a wider view. So if you have a large list, let's say you have an invoice where we want to look at the invoice lines. We have a table list at the bottom with a bunch of columns. So just expanding the whole view or maximize the view will make it a lot easier to record that session without us having to scroll back and forth. So always try to make the canvas as large as possible. And of course, if you ever need to use or click on something or interact with the fact box, you can just simply expand by clicking here, do your actions in the fact box, minimize it again, and so forth. So that's pretty much it when it comes to Business Central. It's pretty much straightforward. The only thing that's specific, I would say, are these 4 commands that just makes it easier to record test scripts where we want to make sure that the section is expanded or collapsed. We do have a specific command for toggling checkboxes as well as verifying them. So if you have any questions, of course, reach out to the team. We're more than happy to assist and help you out.